All right, welcome to the Nobody Named Kevin podcast. First double digit 10. Nobody Named Kevin podcast number 10. Anybody here named Kevin tonight?
Definitely not.
Nope.
All right, boys. So what do we want to lead into first?
So, so this is our first screen share moment, which I think is cool since it's our first double digit thing. And I want to pick y'all's brain on the IMDb top 50 movies of all time. I came across this because I was watching that guy on YouTube. I think it's like Cinema Junkies or something. They'll take one director and they'll be like every Christopher Nolan film ever, every Quentin Tarantino film ever. Somehow this got brought up with Christopher Nolan because he has like most of the top movies.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I think it was interesting because it's hard to decide what is the best movie of all time because according to IMDb, it is Shawshank Redemption, which is a good movie. It's just hard to say,
Okay.
is it the best movie of all time?
Hold on. Okay, let me go down a rant with this too. One, like, how are they measuring it? Because it doesn't go off awards. I know that much. Is it going off user feedback or is it going off like what critics say? Because critics are wrong all the time. On top of that too, like, are we saying best movie of its generation or are we saying best movie as of right now? Because like if we're going best movie as of right now, 12 Angry Men shouldn't be on there. Never seen it. It's a movie from 1957. I doubt a lot of people have seen that movie. Like,
No, so it's going off of in their terms all time. Any movie's eligible. That's how 12 Angry Men can be on there.
Mm-hmm.
But
Cinema
to answer your question about rating.
So here's my thing though. You go all time. Okay, cool. A lot of these movies don't hold up to time. So what are you using as your measurement? Are you saying best story? Best like innovation that it did? Like what are you going for here? It makes absolutely no sense. Like we say all time, dude, honestly, if the movie's still not being watched today, it shouldn't be on the list because clearly it's not the best movie of all time.
So if it goes off of all time, like, and I see what you're saying to an extent, because it goes off of. Here's the problem: it goes off of user rating. Okay, so that's kind of where the main flaw is, in a sense. But how would you define being watched today? Because just for me, if I see this list, I've seen those top four movies. I haven't seen 12 Angry Men, but I could just as easily be like, well, I mean, it's one of the best movies of all time. Let me check it out because maybe it does hold up to the test of time.
The question
is, I think
the thing is, like, my argument to that is like, oh, well, I could, yeah, but nobody's recommending it to you, so it clearly isn't the greatest movie of all time.
Okay, but hear this out, Clayton. If you're saying it's not the best movie now, like it's so old, you've never heard of it. If this list is based off user ratings, there's be people that are alive or have been alive recently, and they put it in the top 5.
Okay, but even then, how are we measuring it? Are we going by the most people that watched it?
So like, this is
because what if there's a movie that it's like, oh, we've only got 2 reviews and we've given it, 10. Like, you know what I mean? Like, to me, I'm sorry. Like, oh, user reviews, cool. I don't care about user reviews because those age out. That doesn't make it the best of all time. That's not saying it's the best of all time. That's saying, hey, it's the best on launch.
No, what? Like, no, that's the best of all time. Well, no. It's not best on launch. The best on launch would be gross revenue, and that would be Avatar, which that's a whole other thing. But this is off user. So 12 Angry Men has 702,000 user ratings.
Yeah.
And it's not like anyone's going to be like, let's brigade this movie and take it to the top. To knock out Shawshank Redemption, so Shawshank is based off 2.378 million ratings.
That's my argument. Like,
that's a healthy sample.
You say, oh, it's the greatest movie of all time, but you have a subset niche thing that everyone, like a major group is watching, but they're liking, and it hasn't entered the sphere of everyone else. Obviously, that doesn't make it the best movie.
How would you measure it then?
But
because you don't like the
at some
critics
point,
either.
not
That's what I'm
everybody on the
saying,
planet
like,
could see it.
It's a subjective thing. Like, there's so many different ways to measure it that I just don't agree with the list. Like, this list would not be my list. I agree with most of the movies on here, like Shawshank Redemption, good movie. Godfather, both of them good movies. The Dark Knight, I'm surprised that one's as high as it is. It is a good movie.
Yeah.
I do think it's in the top 250, but seeing it in the number 4 slot, I don't fully agree with that. It is a good movie, but not that good. The Lord of the Rings ones I agree with. Pulp Fiction, I mean, I agree that it's a good movie for everyone else. I didn't enjoy it. I just didn't think it was that great of a movie, but I do understand that it, like, a lot of people regard it very, very highly. So maybe I just missed the mark on watching it and didn't enjoy it as much as I thought. But, like, dude, most of these movies make no sense to be on this list. Like, whatsoever.
But here's the thing, though. How do you measure it? Because you're saying, like, well, it's subjective. Like, of course, it's a piece of art. Because movies only have an outline to follow, like an intro, climax, conclusion. All that stuff.
Well,
the outline that you had to write stories
no
with in
doubt,
English
but
class.
like, I feel like you can make a silent film movie and be like, well, for its time, it was revolutionary and it was the greatest thing ever. So user ratings are extremely high. Okay, but compared to nowadays, when was the last time you watched a silent film? Never.
That's fine.
Like, that's kind of my argument to it.
Hold on, that's fine, but there's not a silent movie on here. That's completely fine, but there's no silent movies on here. These are based off of, I think this is awesome. I'm going to give it the max number of stars. That's enough popular vote that these people saw it. But, sure, but there's no silent films on here.
But here's, like, my side argument. Like, 12 Angry Men is the one that I have the biggest, like, contention on right now. It's a movie from 1957 compared to 2.8 million votes to 700,000. You know what I mean? More people are voting on it, so more people have seen it, more people care about it. That was what I was saying about, like, it could be a niche movie highly regarded in one scene, but other scenes just aren't looking at it. So it can still make this list even though it doesn't have a big enough sample size of people watching it to rate it.
Like, are you saying you need a more detailed type of listing, like top 10 and box office, top 10 and this specific genre, my thing is, or like, this specific era?
What is your, like, ratings cutoff? Like, how many ratings does it need to actually be eligible?
Oh, like if there's a limit of like 3 million, or you have
to
have at least 500,000.
Like Devin said,
let's go to the very bottom one. 54,000 gets you into the list. If that 54,000 would put you at an average of 8 stars.
Yeah, so you get what I'm saying. Like,
50K is niche.
This is what that's what I'm saying. Like, people aren't watching these movies, so they're not reviewing them. You know what I mean? Like,
those bottom ones. Hold on, the bottom ones, yes, but all the movies that people are watching, I'd say top 50.
Well,
I'd say top 50 people are watching. Oh, WALL-E's at number 61.
Nice.
A million ratings. A lot of people have seen WALL-E, and only 1 million have rated it.
Well, like, see, that's my, like, thing with it is, like, it's so a niche group can do it, but obviously if it's such a niche movie, it can't be the greatest movie of all time. Like, what is our baseline for amount of votes that it should have? Because, like you said, with law of averages, if there are so many votes, it averages out. And if it's really good, it'll break that mold, like we see with Shawshank Redemption. 2.8, still managing to have a 9.2 rating. That's insane. But you go to a movie with 54,000 with like a 7 rating, and it's like, dude, that's not that impressive. That could be a niche group.
But that's the other thing. The other side of that argument is like, that's what makes it best by popular vote, and that's the only way you can pick it. Because, I mean, most of these movies are great. You know what I mean? So somebody felt compelled enough to watch it, rewatch it. Somebody felt compelled enough to log in online, make an account, and vote on it. That's what makes it best. And popular vote, you have to go off that. Even if it is a niche, you could say, well, what if there's a niche unheard of movie that is the best? It's niche, though. Then it wouldn't be that, because we can go down that same rabbit hole with music. There's music from the 50s and 60s that is timeless because of its structure. because of its relatability, that people still sample, remix, and play, or just play the original version, right?
Well,
but there's always going to be somebody that's like, my homeboy who raps on SoundCloud is actually the greatest rapper of all time, but nobody's ever heard of him. So how?
Okay, yeah, so like that's kind of my argument. Like, if you wanted to bring skating into it, like, you have Rodney Mullins, incredible skater, no one will deny that. But when was the last time you tried to really attempt any of Rodney Mullins stuff? You're following the new age because the new age is cooler and more appealing. Like,
but he would
no
still be in
disrespect
top
to
10.
the skill. Like, I feel like music, you can take that baseline and be like, hey, this is showing really good music principles. Like, here it is. And that is why it's great. That's why it's a classic. Because it showed incredible, and it showed a defining moment and a change of, like, this was revolutionary. Whereas, like, these movies, it's like, I feel like if it's a way older movie, people are like, well, for its time, it did this, 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 and this. But, like, I feel like the newer ones are have more ability to have things counted against them. You know what I mean? Like, you've opened it up so much that the tap now, there's so many more things to critique. Like, oh, the CGI was bad. They did practical effects in this part. The practical effects were great. Like, there's more places for you to be counted off.
There is, but if you are in this culture, you understand those elements, and that factors in your rating. And even if you are not in that culture and you're just like your average viewer, if it's compelling enough for you to enjoy it as an average viewer, it is still can be good. With Rodney Mullen, doing a kickflip is doing a Rodney Mullen trick. Doing a heel flip is doing a Rodney Mullen trick. You are forever stuck in his shadow. Anything you do is based off that. So you think about some of these newer directors, even, I don't even want to say newer, quote unquote. You have Quentin Tarantino, who's amazing. I bet in his head, he's like, all right, I'm going to steal this shot from this guy that I grew up watching. I'm going to take this plot from this movie that I grew up watching and twist it my way. Everything's a remix. So yes, everything can get counted off, but you can do the same with music. So I think it might have more points count against it, but not for the people that are in the culture. If you do a heel flip or a kick flip, Clayton, I'm like, nice job. I'm not like, oh, that's just like Rodney Mullen. I'm like,
but like, I get what you're saying, but at the end of the day, like you said, like, the experts who are in the field will account for it. Well, this isn't made by the experts. This is, anyone can vote on this. So it's like, okay, now we go to critics. How many times have critics been wrong versus what people actually watched and enjoy? So it's like, there's too many different ways to measure it. I don't agree with this list. This wouldn't be the list I made. But at the end of the day, too, like, okay, we go off user reviews. It's like, dude, you're kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel.
It's like, I don't know if critics are wrong necessarily. They have such a different perspective. It's because it's all they do. All they do. There's like, on music, Anthony Fantano, I don't know if y'all watch on YouTube, The Needle Drop. He's like the most popular music reviewer. He literally hates Eminem. He cannot give Eminem a compliment if there was a gun to his head. I still watch him though. I still watch his reviews of everything else. We just highly disagree on rap music. He hates Hopsin. There's like a 17-minute compilation of him making fun of him. But I still watch his stuff because he's insanely critical of the smallest things. And it's like, that's just all he does is critique music, his perspective. It's like us disagreeing over dinner with Gordon Ramsay. We're like, dude, it's fine. He's like, no, that is garbage.
I mean, I agree to a point, but like I said, dude, I just don't agree with the method in which they manage this. It's like, we go off user reviews. You can see the problem in the fact that, like, it only has 54,000 votes. Like, I'm sure if you go to some newer movies that are probably better, they have more votes. So obviously the average is going to go down.
The only thing is that a lot of these movies are older and dominating because, I mean, you got to think, Darkness 13 years ago.
Like I said, most of these
a lot of these are 20 to 30.
Most of these movies I agree with, but there are some that slipped in that have really no business in being there to me.
What's your opinion on this, Schwing? Because you're definitely more of a movie junkie than myself.
I mean, honestly, out of the top 10, I've only seen Dark Knight, Schindler's List, Pulp Fiction. I've seen The Lord of the Rings, but I'm not a fan. I mean, it's all right. It's adventurous, I guess. I don't know. I just don't know how else
Let's
you would
see
collect it.
Box office.
Like, I mean, that's
this
just
is the week's box office. Yeah, I was hoping it was all-time box office.
Mm-hmm. Like, if you can go all-time box office, we know Avatar's on there. Like, there's
top movie box office.
Yeah,
yeah, Avatar, which is stupid.
Avatar. Oh,
that is
wait,
that
no, a movie passed it, didn't it? A movie passed it recently.
Temporarily.
Oh, yeah. Avengers had beat it for a little bit.
Yeah, which just blows my mind, dude. Like Avatar, its whole selling point was it was shot all in 3D. It wasn't pseudo 3D like we were doing at the time. And it was like, so it's like it sold so much off of a gimmick because no one can talk to me about Avatar without just making the it's just Pocahontas joke or it's just this other movie joke. No one is like compelled by that movie. Everyone's like, yeah, I saw it.
I disagree. Like, I actually thoroughly enjoyed Avatar, mainly for what they did. Like, it was like the CGI was incredible. Like, the acting was not bad. I don't disagree. The story wasn't overly original. But, I mean, I agree. It did some things that nobody else had done as well at that point. But then on top of that, like, we look at highest gross. It's like, okay, how much did they actually make versus what they spent? Like, what do you consider?
Well, I mean...
Because, like, Avengers Endgame...
$2.8 billion.
It's not the most profitable movie.
I mean, $2.8 billion is a lot of money.
Is that billion or million?
I mean, I'm not fully disagreeing.
That's a billion, dude. Yeah,
but like
that's
oh yeah, dang. Oh.
Titanic.
Hey, I want to give I love that Fate of the Furious is on there. Top 2019.
The Fate of the Furious. Oh my gosh.
Dude, the new one's
Furious
coming out.
7?
Oh, I didn't even see that.
Oh, it's even higher.
I mean, wow. The new one's gonna knock Avatar out, dude.
Dude, I still don't understand the obsession with them.
This is that whole Pokemon effect because you have the newer Star Wars just stomping the old ones, and literally, if you have
people
any
will argue
Star
the
Wars
older ones are
nerd,
better.
Yes, you ask any Star Wars fan, like a hardcore fan. I have not met one hardcore Star Wars fan yet that says like they either like I don't count those as canon or they're just like just severely disappointed, but just accept their fate.
I think it also shows like how much hype goes into it, right? It does like how much money you made off the movie doesn't necessarily show that it's a better movie. It could just be you marketed it really, really well, so the hype got everyone in.
Yeah, because we could argue Minions had a better story than Captain America: Civil War, which I doubt. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh! But anyway, yeah, was that.
I don't know. It just gets me upset. I don't agree with a lot of the ways they measured it, and that's my problem. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, of course, my favorite movie isn't on that list, but at the end of the day, I don't think my movie is like a top 100 movie. I think it's up there. I think it's a really good movie, way better than average. But I don't think it's the greatest cinematic movie of all time. It's just the one that I enjoyed the most.
I can't pin down what the best is either, is the other problem. Like, my favorite movie, I still don't think is the number one movie of all time. That's kind of like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, it's a good movie. Mm-hmm. The greatest of all time? Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, for real. So what do we want to jump into, man? Like, what's our next thing? I really want to get off the list movies, dude. It just gets me so upset, bro. I can't stand it. It's such a bad way to measure, and it bothers me. Like, I don't know why you would measure movies that way. It's just not a good idea. It's like the same thing with like restaurants and stuff. Like you'll see some places that like, oh, it's got really bad reviews. Okay, but like a lot of the time, mostly only upset people are gonna be posting. Like, how often do you get someone who's passionately happy when something's good versus passionate enough to make something when it's bad? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, you're like God, it's like 75% more likely to post if you don't like it, and then you have like a less than 1% chance to post if you do. It's
you're just like, oh, that was great.
Yeah, and then
because there's no story. Unless it is so above and beyond. If it's so above and beyond, there's a story. You just tell your friends, oh, dude, it was amazing. Me and so did this. They brought out this fire. We cooked an alligator. It was great. Like all this crazy stuff. But then you don't post about it. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. The story is more of like, it was so terrible. And you're like, I need everyone to hear this. I'm putting a review here, here, and here. Because there's, and again, most of it's not true. Most of it's not true at all. They twist the story so much in their favor. Like, everyone,
everyone's the hero of their own story, man. You'll never get an honest opinion.
Right.
Just like no one being able to find a job right now, even though people are paying for interviews.
Dude, paying. It's like, I want to go to the interview just to make $50. But I wonder what the stipulation is.
I almost
I was driving to Florida. That'll make the money.
I'm pretty sure the stipulation is probably like, oh, it's a $50 signing bonus. Like, only if you actually qualify and we want you will you get the $55. Because if not, like, everyone would be showing up. It just wouldn't make sense.
That was my thing too. I'm like, it's easy. Like, I could just get $50 real quick. Like, I could do an interview.
And then I mean, you can go down the argument too of like the fact that like, okay, it's a 725-hour job, or I mean, even more than that. It's like, dude, I know so many people, like when COVID hit, they were making more off the like unemployment benefits. So why they're not incentivized to work? They're like, I'm better with this. I make more. I can't have both. So why would I not take the option that pays me more?
Dude, that is every restaurant I go to now. It's severely understaffed. Severely. And like, I've had multiple times I go out to eat and the manager offers me a job because they just need people. They just need people who want to work. And that's, it is weird. It's like, what perspective is the right perspective? Because they need people, but also, why can they make more not working?
Well, it's weird because like this is what the government's deemed necessary for them to survive in the pandemic and everything. But then their pay is worse. And even in some cases, they don't always get paid minimum wage. Like I've seen a lot of places hiring in Arlington that start at like 10 to 12 an hour. At some fast food restaurants, Panda Express, like 14 an hour.
When COVID hit, I got a $3 boost in my paycheck. I was making $14 an hour. Cool. You were still going to make more if you were on unemployment. So it was like...
That's my point.
It was like...
The government is deeming that you need this much to survive in our country based off statistics and the numbers. Like, why is our pay so low? The system's supposed to check itself. You know, like if we're not meeting the needs, like why is the cost of living going up, or the wages aren't? Or they are, but for some reason they're still behind somehow. Because to me, 14 an hour, I'm like, that's pretty freaking good.
See, I don't
Panda Express, but it's still somehow like the average cost of living and it's still not being met somehow.
It's the basic principle of like capitalism. Like their labor is just not worth as much, so it gets paid less. So like the argument is it like to me is the problem. Housing is too expensive.
That's to me. I don't get how housing's been going up. Since, the last 10 years, even though other stuff hasn't.
Because like most, like honestly, like if it wasn't for rent being so extremely high, $7.25 would be a livable wage, at least in Texas. Like, rent is just stupid in a lot of places. And if you don't want to pay that rent, you have to live miles away from any decent jobs where you feel safe and secure. You have to live in a sketchy neighborhood or a sketchy apartment complex.
Dude, even then, it's still like $800 a month for the sketchy ones, and rent in Texas is considered low compared to most states.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, our minimum wage, I'm pretty sure, is lower than most as well.
Dude, I watched. There's this video on YouTube of like this guy interviewing. He does real estate, and he found somebody who made it big in real estate after working door-to-door sales. Anyway, they're both talking, and he's like, "When did you start, getting this uptick?" Excuse me. And he's like, "Oh, he bought the properties that he had. He had like I can't think of what you call them. It almost looks like a motel, but it's not a motel. It's just like it's like a bunch of duplexes together." And he's like, I just got it, raise the rents. And the guy's like, yes, just raise the rents. And the guy's like, yeah. He's like, you raise the rents. He's like, they're going to have to find a way to pay it. And he's like, we just do that every year. Just raise the rents. And I'm like, dude, like, I get it if it's necessary, but like, there's a fine line between necessary and like, what are we doing here?
Well, it's like, yeah,
you know what I mean? And then like they go in and they ask one of the tenants, they get him on camera. They're like, he's like, yeah, I raised the rent up on you. And the tenant was like, yeah, you keep going up on us, but I mean, I got nowhere else to live. Trying to make light of it. I'm like, that is misery.
I mean, that is one of the parts of like housing and stuff like that bugs me is like, we can make no changes to this building at all. Cool, now it costs you more to live there. And it's like, why? You haven't done anything to actually improve the area or improve it. And
their argument is like, that's their argument though, is the city you live in and the demand to live in that city. If it gets higher, like, I mean, if you're in a nice place, or even, I mean, heck, even if you're not in a nice place, even if there's just a high demand to live in that area, your rents they can just say that's the reason. I mean, they could think of a lot of stuff.
I just see for me, it's just too complex for me to understand a solution to it because I see a problem there. I think housing is way too expensive.
It's extreme.
Well, and like, dude, when I was in the apartments, the rent went up every single time I re-signed. There was no incentive. It's like there's no incentive to stay here. Like that's the other side of the competition is like, what is the incentive to stay here if you're going up on the price every year? It's the same apartment building. You can say, oh, well, we made the amenities better. Great. What if I don't use the amenities? What if I don't use the 3 treadmills that you have in a room with a TV?
Hate that also.
What if I don't use the amenities? Okay. And it's like, oh, we repainted the building. That's fine. That's for you. It's not for me. You know what I mean? And like, it's like there's no incentive to live here, and there's an incentive if you sign longer, they'll give you a discounted rate. But it's like I don't want to, and then they're also probably thinking like we don't need to incentivize you because someone else will move in if you move out. So
yeah, I mean, dude, it's the same thing with like I hate the fact that like, oh, hey, we'll take your trash out. You have a limit of 1 in a trash bag. By the way, it's gonna cost you an extra $50 on rent, and it's like once a week, I'm producing more than 1 bag of trash, so I'm taking the trash out myself. Your trash guy half the time doesn't grab the trash, so, like, why am I paying for this? And I can't opt out of it. It's just an included fee. Like, why not just include it in the rent and then just let it be known that it's, like, this is a part of what you get for renting here. No, there's no extra fee for it. And just have it tied into the rent. Like, why do you have to pretend, like, hey, you're paying $10 to do this. Like, dude, just tie it in the rent and then just let me know that's something I can do. Because, like, dude, my apartment, I paid for it the whole time. Not once did I ever put my trash out. I took the trash out. Because, like, on top of that, too, like, I'm not leaving a bag of trash in my house just so you can run it once a week.
Oh, yeah. You have to place it out between these 2 hours, this hour and this hour. And if it's not in the bin, if it's not in your own trash can, we're not picking it up.
Oh, and on top of that, if it's got any liquid in it, it needs to be quadruple bagged or else we're not picking it up. It's just like, it's not worth it. Like it's not a good service. Like
No,
I'd rather you just tie it into my rent and not tell me, and then just tell me like, hey, this is something we do. If you want to take a part of it, here's how you do that. Like don't tell me it's like, yes, you pay a $10 trash fee or a $50 trash fee.
Mm-hmm.
Don't tell me about it. Just include it in the rent and just let me know it's a feature. Just tie it into the total price and stop breaking it down.
Yeah, and there's just so many dumb amenities. Well, sometimes we have cookies in the lobby. I don't go to your lobby. I go to my apartment and I go to work. Why would I walk out of my way to go down to the main office to maybe get a stale cookie? I don't care. I don't care
You're never
that you put Chips Ahoy on a plate and said they were homemade when we know they're not. I see the Chips Ahoy in the trash bag.
Well, and dude, on top of that, like I am never going into that portion unless I have a problem. Other than that, there is no reason for us to be speaking.
You know, just go down to chat.
Yep.
And dude, that's another thing too. I don't understand what those people who work there do all day, to be honest with you. Because like
someone walks in, I guess.
Yeah, but like, dude, you know that job is 90% sitting around for the occasional person who walks in, and they put no effort into incentivizing you to live there at all, or like trying to sell you on it. They're just like, if you want to take a look at the floor plan, here's the floor plan. It's this. It'd be this much. If you don't like that floor plan, you could do this one. It's a little bit smaller square footage. It's about $15 less. This is one of the ones. We only have 2 layouts of the room display, but we actually have 6 options. No, we don't have any that you can look at, but here's the 2 that you can look at. Like, you don't do anything. You maybe interact with the person 2-3 times a day at most, and half the time we call, you don't answer the phone.
You don't have to sell
we
anything,
need
dude.
first. It's not a sale. It's like it's
a need. People need places to live. Like they're gonna come to you.
It's a rock and a hard place. There's no selling. But you don't have a choice, sir. It's like, well, $1,000 rent. It's like, well, we need you to make 4 times that, and we need the first and last month up front. Okay, if I'm making $4,000 a month, okay, and you think I got $2,000 to drop on this? You think I'd live here? Think I'd live here if I was pulling in $50K?
I don't understand that either. Why you have to make quadruple what the rent is?
And then on top of that, you're paying when you're moving out. You're paying a fee to have the apartment cleaned. No, you can't clean it yourself. But if it's extremely dirty, we charge you more. Like, dude, our apartment, we went through. We shampooed the carpets. There was no smell to it. Cleaned out everything. Wiped down everything. Cleaned the inside of, like, the oven. Cleaned the inside of the kitchen. Turned off the electricity. Vacuumed the carpet. Shampooed the carpet. Mopped the floors. Cleaned up any stains on the wall. Still get charged a $200 cleaning fee. And it's like, what did you clean? What did you clean?
Every time. Bro, I guess it's like it was different 45 years ago or something, because everyone's always like, Devin, make sure you get your deposit back. I'm like, you don't get it back.
No,
they will find a way to not give it to you. You when you hand that deposit, agree that it's gone. Yep. Because here's the thing, they're gonna rip up the carpet and replace it whether you clean it or not. They're gonna repaint wherever they feel needed. Make sure to get your deposit. You're not getting it back. You're not. I had 15. I got lucky because it was so high. I had like a $1,500 deposit at my previous house. I think I got like 200 of it back for what they deemed necessary, whatever. There's, and then at the apartment, I think I owed them $200 after taking all of my deposit. I'm like, what? Oh. Yeah, you don't get the deposit back.
Yeah, for me, dude.
It's a pipe dream.
I understand I'm not getting the deposit back, so, like, I don't care if a couple things get torn up, to be honest. Like, I do my best because I don't want to live in filth, but, like, my dogs chewed one of the baseboards. Okay, cool. My $1,200, deposit I paid will replace that baseboard, and you still make a profit off of it. Oh, there's a little bit of wallpaper gone? Cool. You can re-wallpaper it for less than that just for that section. Like, my house, it's like, dude, you look at the cabinets, you can tell they're not professionally paying to get it done. So the paint's all over the walls. It's like, dude, this is clearly someone who's watching DIY videos and then halfway doing it. And it's like, dude, like, I've got plugs that don't work in the house that we can't use. And it's like, you're going to charge me for that. I know you're going to charge me for it, but you're never going to fix it. So it's like, for me, I'm like, okay. I mean, our lady told us, she was like, honestly, you'll probably get it back. We gave it back to the last people. The house was not in amazing shape. She did a couple things. She's like, honestly, if you just clean it up and make sure that there's not trash everywhere, we typically won't count off. And I'm like, I honestly don't care. I'd chalk it up as a loss anyways. And then on top of that, too, the fact that you pay a pet deposit. Like, for what purpose am I paying a pet deposit? Why is that any different from my other deposit? You're telling me my pet is going to... Like, even if it's a cat, it's declawed and everything. How much is it going to actually tear up the house? Not much at all. And at worst, if you're like, oh, there's an odor, cool. Like a deodorizer, $100 to rent, you run it for an hour and it's gone. The smell is gone. It is just neutral in there.
I was going to say one thing to defend that pet deposit. When I was in college, our buddy, his dog, destroyed like the type of curtains you have behind you, Clayton, like those blinds.
Those I agree.
Every pair of blinds was torn down or ripped up, and then underneath each door was like the wood was just destroyed.
It was more expensive for I'm 90% sure, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the cat deposit was either more or the same as the dog deposit. And it's like, okay, what are we defining as pet? Like, if I have fish, like, they're clearly not going to tear anything up. Do I still have to pay a deposit for that? Like, what are we considering a pet at this point? Because, like, honestly, like, why don't I just have cattle in my house at that point? It's like, well, I mean, I paid the pet deposit.
It's your emotional support animal. It's not your pet.
Oh, dude, I watched a video where this lady was freaking out at this person for having an emotional support pig. Oh, it was great. Dude, it was huge. It was a hog, and she was like freaking out because they have an HOA, and she was like, I've lived here for 5 years and no one said anything. It's an emotional support animal. If you have a problem with it, that's fine, but you're not going to win this argument. And they're just like, what is this pig is like, it's literally just like, she has it on a leash. She's following all the rules that you would have. And she's like, he literally is just standing next to me. He has not run at you. He has not charged you. He has not torn anything up. And she's like, oh, you're not picking up the poop. She literally picks up the poop. I'm like, how can you be mad? Like, why? Why do you have to have a problem with this?
People have to find
you don't get it because but you don't get it because you are that type of person, Clayton. You'd be like, well, the rule is emotional support pig, so I don't understand why you have a problem with my hog, because your rules say...
My thing is within reason. Like, I don't disagree. If the hog was causing damage to the property, it was not being picked up after, it was attacking people, I get it. But, like, if it is literally doing nothing... And you can clearly tell that it's doing nothing, and I've lived here for this long and no one's even noticed that I have it, it's clearly not an issue. Get over it.
It's the lack of trust in people is what it is. That's where the pet deposit stems from. They don't trust that your dog isn't going to tear everything up. They see you with a hog, they're like, you cannot trust another human being to wrangle that thing in and keep it as it, non-damaging. So, it's just the lack of trust in people.
My thing is like, cool, I get your lack of trust in people, but at the end of the day, if I pay the pet deposit for the hog, why is there a problem? You got the money to compensate for it. Like, so what's your problem?
Yeah.
Like, that's my thing.
I paid the money that you said was required.
Exactly. Why is this now an issue? Like, I can understand because I know, like, city ordinances and stuff like that. Like, I'm 90% sure I can't have, like, chickens in my backyard because obviously there's city ordinances about, like, in the city limits you cannot raise livestock. So I'm sure they have it limited down to you can have, like, 2 chickens and stuff like that. Like, I understand that, but at the end of the day, dude, like, it's one pig. What is your problem with one pig?
Dude, you should get like a cow, a pig, and a goat, and just raise them on your front lawn.
See, I can't
put up
do
like a
that
little tiny
because
fence.
I'd have to go through
city ordinances.
I'd have to look through city ordinances to see what I could get away
See
with.
if you're allowed to have at least one for like certain square footage or something.
My thing
and
is,
have it perfectly.
Like, I know at the end of the day, it'll tear up the backyard. I understand that. I also understand my neighbors don't want to smell manure all the time. Get it. I'm not gonna be that neighbor. But like an emotional support pig, like if it's an indoor pig and I'm cleaning up after it, what's the problem here?
I don't know, dude. I just picture you like standing out in your front yard, like
with a cow on a leash,
like basketball shorts, cowboy boots, and like a ripped up t-shirt and just like a straw hat, and you're like like shoveling manure right there in the front yard. My kids are playing basketball.
Dude, that's another thing too. Cool. You don't have to pay a kid deposit.
That's true. It's a good
kids
point.
Tear stuff up too. Why don't we have to pay a deposit for having kids? Why is it that it's a general deposit for all human beings when a kid can be just as bad as an animal when tearing stuff up?
They can be. It just people get touchy feely because it's human life.
Oh.
You know, I mean, they can tear stuff up. They can. There's
there's
no argument against that.
Like, my thing is, it's like, oh, it's touchy feeling. That's my son. Cool. That's my animal. What? Because yours grows up to be a little bit more intelligent, which honestly, half the people that have bad kids, let's be honest, they're not going to be more intelligent than that animal.
Yeah, but the thing is that pet people are weird though. When they start calling them their fur babies, and they're like, you know, like people, you know, they know their kids aren't going to have kids, so they call their dogs their grand dogs, and it gets really, really weird. And
I don't
their dog
disagree
is their kid.
That's weird. But you know, like, let's be honest. At the end of the day, a kid can cause just as much damage as an animal. So why do we not have to pay extra deposits for them?
I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm one of those weird people. I love my dog. Like it's a kid.
Don't get me wrong. Like I feel the same way.
Toys and a bed and everything.
Yeah, I feel the same way about mine. Like I want to take care of my dog. I'm living a good life. It's living a good life with me. But like at the end of the day, I'm not gonna kid myself into thinking like, oh, it's a kid. Are there similarities? Yes. Like my dog will have an attitude. My dog will ruin stuff if I ignore her for a little while, just like a kid will go crazy. But the main argument behind it is like there's still a distinction. At the end of the day, like the kid will eventually grow intelligent. And then on top of that, as Devin's major argument is when I go down this rabbit hole, which I can see brewing on his face, is I can't lock a kid in a cage for 12 hours a day. Thing is, you just can't get caught.
Dude, well, you can also do terrible things to animals, but the thing is, no, not that one. That is probably the main difference. You can walk away from it. But what I was going to say is that, yes, y'all have animals and you like your animals, but y'all have not crossed over into the dark side. Y'all do not call them your fur babies. Y'all do not speak about your animals like they're people. Like Steven had an attitude this morning. You know, like, oh, Brucey wasn't eating his dinner the other night. You don't talk about them like they're other humans living with you, and that's why it's okay. No. It's not weird yet.
Here's the distinction. I talk about people living with me like animals. That's why it's not a weird distinction for me. Because, like, I will say, I have said that about the fact of, like, dude, she's got an attitude right now. Like, she was clearly mad at us today.
I have said that too.
Okay. That is okay, but that is you talking to your partners about the animal y'all potentially cohabitate with or share. I'm saying if we're hanging out at dinner or skating, y'all do not bring up achievements of your animals like they're your kids and make everyone else uncomfortable. You do not bring up dinner dates with your dog that you put them on that makes everyone else uncomfortable. I think
we're going to have to start. Here's the other thing, though. I won't talk about that with you because you don't have animals. But, like, if I'm talking to Quentin, there's a relationship there. Like, if I'm like, yeah, dude, my dog has been on one today. Like, she was bad because we ignored her, so she tore up the carpet and stuff. Quentin can relate to that. But if I say that to you, you're like, can't relate. I mean, the most I got is, yeah, I've cleaned up my kid's shit, too.
I mean, I see what you're saying, but I would never
like
just
Devin's just getting upset. Oh,
I see.
It's just like no, I'm not upset. I'm just like, dude.
I see both sides of it. Like, I talk to Clay. I mean, I'll talk to people. I'll be like, or can I come home? I'll be like, was the dog good today? Or like, how'd she act or whatever? Or like what Clayton said. Like, we can relate to that. But if like we were all skating, I wouldn't like yeah. I think I'm gonna have to do something with her. She's been acting up lately, and like get serious with Devin about it or something. Like, it'd be like, what? Like,
okay.
The only thing I'm probably gonna bring up in the group is that my dog is gonna kick Clayton's dog in the teeth.
Going to. My dog will straight up murder your dog.
No, my dog has committed murder.
Your dog's bite
times.
Isn't even getting through the fur.
All right, we'll see.
Mm-hmm. We'll see.
Birds, okay, so somehow rabbits,
the dog fight, and rats. Okay, I went backwards, right, but it should have went up.
Oh, that's cute. My dog still outweighs your dog by a lot.
So the dog fight kind of skims by, but again, if I was toddler versus toddler, we're all getting arrested.
I'm pretty sure if it's dog versus dog, you still get arrested for like animal cruelty.
You can,
to be honest.
But what I'm saying is like the conversation, everyone's like, "LOL, it's dogs." But if it was kids, it'd get really dark.
Oh no! See, I disagree with you.
I think Clayton had a kid, I would definitely. He would always be like, "Yeah, dude, my kid could kick your kid's ass." Like,
my kid could. Okay, my theoretical kid could. Okay. I mean, you got to think he's going to have the Wagner calves, so it's going to go off, okay? Like, yeah, I got natural things built into the bloodline of me that just outweigh y'all's natural things. So unless you're training your kid, I'm saying off the rip, my kid wins, okay?
Training it.
If your kid gets training, maybe we can talk about it.
I'm gonna make him wear one of those like oxygen masks, so he's like at a higher.
It's a 3-year-old just jogging with the altitude mask
newborn.
on.
Newborn baby. Well, as soon as he's out that womb, he's just like, I'm like, yeah, welcome to life, son.
But what I was saying though is Devin's like, oh, dog fights. Like, oh yeah, people aren't as emotional. No, it's just harder to get caught. Like. If I take my dog in public and it's got a limp, I can easily lie and be like, yeah, it got itself stuck in the fence. But, like, if you sit there and say, like, yep, my kid just got his leg stuck in a fence, nobody's buying it.
Yeah, even if you take them to the hospital and, like, their arm's broken, you get questioned.
Yeah, but if I take my dog to the vet and its leg's broken, they're like, what happened?
Trust me, been there. Yeah, been there. Jesus Christ.
I think it's just
his mouth was bleeding, and I freaked out. Well, it's just this weird perspective. His mouth was bleeding, and I took him to the ER, and I'm like, I don't know why his mouth is bleeding. And it's just like, I just got thrown in this interrogation room of all the things I could have done to him. I'm like, okay, we can just leave.
Yeah, bro, he got lippy and you uppercutted him. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, he was like probably 16 months at the time. Yeah. I'm like, what? What? I'm like, I felt offended. I was scared going in, pissed off going out. I'm like, you know what? Just not even that big of a deal. I guess we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
I'm going to be accused of abusing.
Here's the thing, though. It happens so often that they have to be on guard with it. You know what I mean?
It's crazy.
I don't even fit the description, dude.
You don't think you do, but that's like
I don't fit the description.
So like that's the argument of like anything, right? Like when it comes to like sexual assault, they're like, well, I mean, he never seemed like the kind of guy. It's never the person you think. You know what I mean? Like, what is the verbatim outline? Like, I'm sure you could be like, yeah, it's more probable that it's going to happen, but it can happen with anyone. And I guess because they take that so seriously, like, dude, they have to treat everyone like that. Like, what happened?
I guess so. I guess you're not wrong. Because I would picture my ideal is like, I think trailer trash. Like I go in there with like a wife beater that used to be white. It's like kind of brownish yellow. It's kind of tattered. I just pictured trailer trash. Like my hair looks like it got hit by 18 different clippers. Just that's what I picture. I'm like, I don't even. Okay, but yeah, I mean, I guess you're right. You got to question everyone equally, because when people start getting away with stuff like that, you know, it's like how people fangirl over Ted Bundy.
Dude, I
don't understand that. They're like, okay, I'd marry him. I'd go to the grave for him.
Because I could change him. I could stop him from killing people. And he put all his attention on me.
I think is that the problem to make yourself feel more important. Like, oh, I could fix him. Like, I would be able to show my virtue by fixing him. And then on top of that, to be honest, like, Ted Bundy wasn't a horrible looking guy, so I can see that. But, like, I just don't understand the logic. Like, I don't understand why people want to be fixers for something that broken. For me, it's like,
that's just like a thing.
I get most people are broken, and it's like you want to fix them because you care about them. But like when it's someone I've never met, or I like can't really tell if they're a good person or not, I don't immediately go like, I want to fix this person's problems.
When people do that, dude, I don't know if it's the right thing, but I feel like they're doing that to substitute, like, or maybe not substitute, but push their own problems underneath like a layer and try to address someone else's to feel like they have control in their life when really they don't.
I mean, I can feel that.
Here's the scary part is that sometimes these people aren't actually helping you. What they're doing, it can get very manipulative because they approach you as if they're helping you, and what they're doing is they just want to be able to flex that they can change you and who your perception of you is. And then now you're under their guise, and then they just kind of have their finger on you all the time. And they lead with help and this and that. And then all of a sudden, you know, it just gets really weird. You don't realize you're being manipulated. Well, they weren't there to help you. They found you were broken, and they took advantage of you.
My thing is too, though, it's like, it doesn't always have to have a sinister plot. You know what I mean? Like, you could, like, truly be in love with someone and want to fix them, or be really good friends with someone and care about that engagement. Because, like, same thing with, like, us and you and each other. Like, we're all asking each other for help, and, like, sometimes we'll offer advice even when the other person doesn't ask for it. It's not necessarily that we're trying to manipulate them. Sometimes we're like, hey, I mean, this is what I would do. Here's my perspective on it.
I was speaking more on the fact of, like, if it was like a stranger, like not like people you know. Like I thought earlier you had said like it just someone you'd never met, like you meet them at a party or a social gathering or work or something, like, you know, and you don't know if they're really going to follow through with this.
I guess to a degree that would be a form of manipulation. I could see that motive to it, but I guess because I just don't feel like I'm that person, that's not me. Like, I'm only gonna address it if it's something you brought up. Like, if you bring it up, I'm like, that's okay. Here's what I think about that. Because I'm like, why are we talking about it if you don't want my opinion?
True.
The thing is, like, I don't think it's always sinister at all. No, I think it is most of the time good-hearted. There are sinister people out there that will pick somebody that's broken and be like, cool, I can make them do everything I say now. Mm-hmm. But like, and agree, Bill, but like, yeah, we give each other advice. I love when people want to get motivated and they come talk to me. I love when people have like a life block and they come talk to me about it. I mean, dude, it's like, even if I go out to eat, like some of the waiters that I've gotten to know from being a regular, like we'll just dump their, you know, they'll just be like, oh, hey, this is going on. And then we'll just talk about it. And that's really exciting to me because I feel like I can help them because I genuinely want to. Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course, or with you guys, whatever.
Well, so like
also helping others. Okay.
Another weird thing too that I see a lot is like also like some people just like, even being in a relationship, and I'm sure Quentin can relate as well. Sometimes it's like they just want to vent the problem. They don't want you to find the solution. They just want you to understand what they're going through. They're not looking for help out of it. They're just looking for someone to listen so that they can bounce ideas off a wall.
And I've asked people that before who've vented to me. I'm like, are you coming asking for a solution, or do you just want to vent? They're like, I just want to vent. I'm like, okay, I'll just listen.
Mm-hmm. I guess that's a good perspective and tactic to try to take, so that you're not always pushing it. It's probably a good idea on ways to start that conversation. Like, what are you looking for out of this?
Yeah. What's the intention here, really?
Mm-hmm.
And because sometimes I'll be like, no, I literally like I can't wrap my head around this. I'm like, okay, but again, you can never teach anyone anything, right? It's like you can tell them all you want, but you have to get them to that conclusion or help them understand it, or they have to just go through it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like once you get through it yourself, you're like, oh, there we go.
Yeah, and I always heard the saying, like, when you help others, like, it helps you help yourself. Like, kind of like what I said earlier. Maybe the better way to put it is like if you have like a mental block or an obstacle in your life that you're trying to get past and you just haven't been able to, sometimes like stepping back and helping others get over their obstacles can give you a whole new perspective or help you with yours.
Yeah.
Dude, this is gonna sound okay. I'm gonna say I feel like it might come off like maybe self-centered, or it might come off like really self-absorbed in some way. But I feel that way about when I write or if I make a video that is specifically around motivation. So like I literally, because I think sometimes most of the time what I'm doing is I'm talking to myself or my older, like a younger self. I'm like just talking to addressing my own problems. But somebody's going to relate. There's 7 billion people out there, right? But the one I just edited and uploaded, I forgot everything I said in it because I got it off my chest. And I filmed it like 3 weeks ago. While I'm editing it, I like motivated myself because that's originally how they all start, is me talking to myself. I watched it and I was like, I don't know how it sounds self-absorbed, but I motivated myself because I actually just addressed my own problem by talking about it to someone else. It's weird.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's also like like if we bring it back to skating, like same thing. Like if Quentin's trying to do like shoves or something like that, and I'm having trouble with shoves that day, sometimes relearning that lesson and kind of explaining it to him will help me start landing it. Or even with like kick flips or something like that, explaining like, hey bro, you're flicking too hard. Your object isn't to just slam the board as hard as you can. You don't need to do that. You have more than enough power. You just need to figure out the correct amount of power.
Mm-hmm. And I think, teaching is a great way of learning, because I can't remember who said it, but it was like, if you can't explain it simply enough, then you don't understand it. Now, dude, that's one of the things that's always stuck with me, of like, can I explain this simply? Can I break this down, or can I compare it to something else? And if I can teach it, then I do know it. If it's insanely vague and a lot of assumptive talk, it's like, well, you don't really get it, do you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Because like, when I was coaching you on the pop shove it, I was literally thinking, I'm like, how do I do those? Because I just do them. But I'm like, okay, you do this and do this. You do this and do this. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited for that to come in. It's supposed to come in tomorrow.
Bro, I'm hyped for
dude, I want to. No, dude, I'm fat. I want to help you build it, but like I'm not going to be there. But I'm just like, oh, that feeling of putting a new one all together. But I don't want to build it because that rob you of that feeling. That's such a good feeling, is putting a skateboard together and putting the grip tape on.
Dude, that's the one thing I'm nervous about, is a grip tape. I just don't want to like bubble that.
That's one thing that I'm wondering if Quentin will either YouTube it and then point out every flaw that he did in it, or if he's going to ask you for help on it.
Grip tape. I don't know. Let's see how hard it is.
It just feels scary because it is like a one take thing, but it's like, don't let it scare you.
It's like, put on a screen protector, maybe. I don't know.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, that one technically you can pull it right back up, but
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, the grip tape's pretty sticky. Yeah.
I just gotta remember, because there's like a nose and a back. Like I know after like on y'all's that have been used, this kind of like looks the same now, but like when you first get it, there's like a front and a back, right, of the board. Yeah, because I got the grip tape with the little bear. I want to put the bear on, like, so I can correlate. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you'll see it because there's always a logo on top that will tell you. If there's not a logo on top, the bigger rounder side is always the nose.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's usually like an obvious difference. There was a line of mystery skateboards when I was skating. Their selling point was that it was parallel, like it was completely mirrored on both sides. You think skateboards are, but they're not. The nose is bigger, the tail is smaller, but their whole selling point for that line of boards was that it was the same either way you skated it. I was like, I thought they were that way. No. And then you feel it in your feet now.
It's weird because we were just standing on some, and I honestly always thought the tail was the bigger part, but the nose is the bigger part.
See,
the tails. Go ahead.
Well, like my thing is like too. I also wonder how much our body just like naturally understands this is what feels right. Because I'm sure if you look at my board, you can know what the nose and the tail are, and you could probably be like, okay, that's obviously the end you were using more. You didn't realize it, but naturally your body just knows.
It's almost like when you start, it almost doesn't matter. Because I remember that I was like, why does it matter what's front and what's back? It all when I started, but then as I was like, oh, the tail's lower to the ground, so you can pop it faster. And I don't know why the nose is bigger, but the nose is bigger. Yeah, it's like I was like, what? It never mattered to me, but you get into the nuances of it because like that's why heel flips flip so fast and pop so clean, because where you put your back foot in that pocket is closer, it's faster from your board to the concrete. Whereas if you put it on the other side, it's slower. It's these weird little nuanced things that like you kind of pick up and learn, and then you're like, so if I want to do this trick, I want it to pop this speed. I need to do it. It can get really, really technical, but just don't overcomplicate it. Like it can get overcomplicated. It doesn't need to be.
Dude, so weird thing was, so like I was gonna go skating on Tuesday, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go over there. Dude, girlfriend was like, well, yeah, like if cops get called, what are you gonna do? Things like that, and it's like, I mean, what's the worst case scenario, right? I'm just gonna leave. Like,
what do you mean cops get called? Where are you going?
I'm just it's like the fact that it's like it's not gonna be public property. It'll probably be like a private property, like because like the way I'm thinking is like it's a huge workout complex. It's got a big parking lot. It's got a section that pretty much goes unused. So I'm like, I mean, cops get called. Maybe they ask me to leave. Like, I doubt I'm gonna get a ticket for skateboarding.
No, I picture like, when you're like, what are you gonna do? What could you possibly be doing? And like, I just picture Clayton skating with his shirt off, with in Sharpie on his torso and his back. All cops are bad. All cops are bad. And an ACAB on his forearm. Like, I don't know why they get called. Like, I couldn't possibly see what's wrong with it.
Well, it's just like.
On the back, on the front, it says tested positive. On the back says ain't ever wearing a mask.
just add more controversy in. Oh shoot, bro!
You would get like a bunch of hoorahs over it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially where we live, they'd be like, "Hell yeah, brother!"
Yeah,
dude. So like, along the lines of cops, did you see that video, Quentin, of the what was it, the 16-year-old?
Yes, I just watched it today, bro. I don't know, man. Oh, I mean, I watched it very briefly. Like, I just watched the body cam footage, but like, someone got called because of, I guess you call it domestic disturbance, because they were like in a neighborhood, and there was like a group of people, like arguing in the driveway, and the cop gets out of his car. And he like puts his hand up. He's like, what's going on? Everybody, kind of step back. And this one girl has like a kitchen knife, and she's like swinging it at this other girl, like as the cop's walking up, and she like pushes the girl with the knife, and the girl falls to the ground. And then side note, this adult man comes up and like kicks the girl that's on the ground in the head. And then the girl that has the knife, the 16-year-old, she's still there. She pushed that girl down. Then this other girl comes up behind her in like a pink jumpsuit. And that girl, she like turns around and shoves her up against the car, has the knife, like about to do it. And the guy's like, he's like, stop. Like he says it like 3 times, I think. He's telling her to chill out the whole time. And she's still, attacking people while he's there. And when she has him up has the other woman against the car, like in her hands like this, he fires his weapon, and I think he fires 4 times, and she died on the scene. They tried to resuscitate her, but she died. Another funny side note, the grown man that hit the other little girl in the head while she was on the ground, he was like, "What's your problem, man? She's a kid." Oh wow, you were incentivizing the situation, sir. The adults are just completely responsible in that whole situation. But the cop, dude, I don't know. I mean, did he make the right decision or not? Mm-hmm. He saved the other woman's life because, dude, there was straight up intent. Like, she was going to stab her. She did not care that the cop was there. She was going to stab that woman.
For me.
But I think one thing I do think before I know Clayton's about to go on his rant, and he knows more than I do about it, but like gunmen have been arrested without being killed, like shooters, armed gunmen. Right. I just want to say, but it's a split second decision, and that's why I'm not a cop. I'm not saying I would have done better. I'm just saying that's just what I think about it.
Different. Most of the gunmen that are taken alive because they surrender. They comply. In this scenario, she was not complying. She had intent to kill someone. Cop had the right to shoot and made the right call, in my opinion. I don't care that it's a kid. That kid could still murder that person and had the knife in hand and was wielding it to stab. The cop's job is to eliminate that threat at that moment. At the end of the day,
because the other woman would have died.
Yeah,
like she would have got hit like right in the jugular, like that's where she had. Dude.
Yep.
Like it was. So that's what people are saying is like controversy is like, so say the cop didn't do anything and the other woman got stabbed, and then like would he have still? What would have happened? Like, oh, you're just letting people die out here. Like, I don't know. But then other people are saying he should have just tased the man or tased the girl. I don't know. I don't know what the protocol is.
So in that scenario, I can't remember. I want to say there were multiple officers on scene at that moment.
They walked up like seconds after he fired. Like 2 or 3 more walked up.
The problem is because it happened so fast, there couldn't be communication. So one of the rules with using lethal force at most departments is that if you are on scene, like let's say I just roll up to an actual stop, it's violent, and they have a deadly weapon, I am not allowed to have less than lethal out. Like that is a big deal. My job is to have lethal out and protect my life. In most scenarios, you have to, if you have multiple officers, someone's going to have lethal coverage and someone can take less than lethal. But in a situation like that, it's moving so quickly. And on top of that, the fact that those people are on top of each other, can you make a clear shot with that taser? And then on top of that,
can you make a clear shot with that gun? I mean, dude, it's the same thing.
So here's a guarantee. I can guarantee that I can pull the trigger faster than reloading my taser if the prongs don't stick. Tasers do not always work. And in a situation like that where it is so high intensity, he had to act and make the right call. And if he made the wrong one, someone like the victim could have died at that point.
So one other question, why 4 shots? Why not just 1 or 2? Like just to end the situation. If you shoot me one time,
I can still swing a knife.
I mean, but he had other officers coming up to back him up, and they didn't have a gun. They had a knife. And if he shot once and they went down, he secured the victim. That was all that mattered.
At the end of the day, that's putting unnecessary risk into it. So when it comes to shooting and stuff like that, if a cop pulls his gun, it is not shoot to maim. It is shoot to eliminate the threat. You have a real reason, because it's very hard for me to give the argument of, well, it would have killed someone. Like, I had to save her life. Okay, so why did you only shoot one time then? Obviously, lethal wasn't necessary at that point. So it's one of those things, like, he had to eliminate the threat. It would very easily, you're like, oh, well, the other officers could have pulled him away. Okay, well, they would have had to get close enough to where that woman could have stabbed. Like, it's putting officers' risk and safety out of the window. Like, most departments, the highest priority is officer safety. So, like, to me, it's like 100% good shooting. If they had more time, it probably could have played out differently where they could have used less than lethal, but he had a split-second decision to make, and I think he made the right one.
I don't know, man.
I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, but it's also another thing is, too, like, a lot of people I don't feel keep this in mind. It's a lot easier to armchair, like, quarterback than to actually be in the scenario and yourself.
Oh, yeah. That's what I was going to say. Like, that's the other hard part about it. Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, you can play-by-play it like it's an RPG battle, but you can in your head. But it's like, I don't know, man.
You weren't there.
Well, it's like,
I don't know.
This situation is the point that makes it a big deal is the fact that she's a kid. Because if there's any other situation of an adult attacking, I mean, they did have a weapon. It was an intent to kill. She was still attacking, continuing to assault even when the officer said stop. And also, all those adults should go to jail because they just watched it happen. Like they were just watching, sitting there watching it.
In that scenario, most of the time, parents will be charged with stuff like that due to negligence and stuff like that in some states. But in this scenario, though, it's like, oh, it's a kid. It doesn't matter. The argument isn't how old it is. The argument is, could they have killed someone? Doesn't matter the age.
No, I just said that's why it sparked a huge deal. I was just saying it wouldn't have been a big of a deal. I think, like you were just saying, like the play-by-play and all that. Like if it was just if it was a grown man or grown woman that did it, I don't know. I mean, because when you watch it, watched it. I don't know. We watched it like in normal time, and we were both like, "Ooh, I don't know." But then they played it back in slow motion, and then we're like, "Ooh, maybe he did make the right call." Because, dude, like watching her put her hand on the other woman and like Chucky, like straight up just had it. I was like, dang, she was ready, dude. She didn't care that there was a crowd of people. Like, I don't know.
It's just one of those things that it's like, to me, age doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they're kids or not. It comes down to lethal verse. Like, she have killed someone, and she was going to.
She was going to try.
So here's a good moral question. Maybe not a good moral question, but a decent moral question. If you were the person pinned up against the car, the knife coming for your jugular, would you, if the cop, rather killed that person?
That was the next thing I was going to say. Yes, a lot of people were saying if that was your wife, your friend, your cousin, whoever, you would want them. And if they had got killed, you would be outraged. Mm-hmm. You're like, that cop didn't do their job. Yeah, that's true. Yet they were a victim in that situation. Mm-hmm. It just happened to be that the what do you call it? The suspect was a child. So,
like, to me, it's like,
even
if you wanted to point out a more controversial shooting in my eyes, and like, I feel horrible for this officer, but the officer in Chicago who shot the 13-year-old boy who threw the gun, like, I feel horrible for that officer that he had to make that call. So in Chicago, a boy takes off down an alley, has a handgun. Cops running after him, goes lethal, turns on his flashlight that like strobes. If you've ever been hit by one of those, it is super disorienting, especially at nighttime. You cannot see anything. It is to give a tactical advantage. The kid apparently, like, the officer says hands up. As he says hands up, the kid throws the gun in the same motion that he puts his hands up, and the officer had a split-second decision to make. And in that moment, he took the shot. Like, it is rough. I feel horrible for the cop that he has to live with that decision, because you can watch back the video and be like, well, he got rid of the gun. And it's like, he had to make a split-second decision. Like, it sucks that it played out that way.
Well, what would he have done if he still had the gun in his hand with the hands up? I mean, would that be more threatening? Or, like, I don't understand.
So what I'm saying is the officer probably still would have taken the shot at that moment.
That's what I'm thinking. What's him throwing the gun have to do with anything? He would have shot either.
The argument is that he did it in the same motion.
Was it going to be a turn or was it going to be a throw?
Yes. So the cop had like a half second as the kid's hands. Because like, if I do this motion very quickly in that situation and adrenaline's pumping through the cop and adrenaline's pumping through me, that's a motion that's hard to distinguish. Because if I'm pulling from here to throw it, I'm going this way or I'm going this way. So it's not much time difference between that. Cop made a bad call, unfortunately. It sucks that he has to live with that decision.
And that's the whole thing too. I don't like with the 16-year-old girl, but he wasn't like, I'm going to kill a 16-year-old today. That's like, it was just like, you know what I mean? So I don't know.
I mean, it shows in the video. He tries to, him and his partner, like his partner's the one that's like doing the CPR or whatever, but he like helped pick up her body. Like they try to, I mean, I don't know. That's why I said at the very beginning, before I say all this, that's why I'm not a cop. I mean, that's not, I don't know.
Yeah, but the other thing is like, this is one of those like ones that is debatable. There's some that are not debatable. Like, yeah, I mistook my gun, which I thought was the taser. Okay.
Like the one where the guy was like selling CDs out of his car and just got like lit up in the passenger seat. Oh, that was insane. He was still buckled.
Right. There's those ones that are so far the other way, but that's one that's like it's a hard question, man. It's a with the parents though. Was this like a trailer trash fight? Like they were just watching
this was a neighborhood. No, it was a decent neighborhood.
Yeah, it was a suburban upper class. From what I understand, is that apparently like 2 or 3 girls decided they were gonna go over there and jump that girl with the knife. So to me, that's what makes it a little bit harder of a call. Is like she was trying to defend herself. She believed she was fighting for her life.
And the parents did nothing about it. They watched it happen. There was like 6 adults on the driveway. Mm-hmm. Like they were just standing there. That's what I'm saying. I'm like,
okay, because y'all were like, there's parents there. I'm like, was this like arranged? But
no, they were all in the driveway. Yeah. Okay.
If they were within distance, I don't understand. Stop this from happening.
It's their fault just as much as anyone's, dude, because if they're trying to defend their daughter who's about to get jumped, they're just letting it happen. Why did they let her take a knife and even walk outside in the first place? Mm-hmm. Call the police if something's happening. Like, I mean, and then the dad who kicked the other girl in the head, like, you're just escalating. Like, you're not helping the situation. Now I just, if that was like, I would have tried to like keep my family inside and call the police.
But like the other thing you got to understand too is we're only seeing part of the story, right?
That's true. That's
they were very that's like hard to make calls on because like even when it comes to things like that, like in a lot of situations, like you can see Twitter, you can see social media take part of the video and run wild with it. And then the police release their body cam footage, and you see what actually happened.
So here's the other thing: it's what if this is the parents settling their dispute through their kids? Because if they're not stopping it, and if they are like, yeah, my kids are gonna jump their kid with a knife, what if that is like a parental dispute that they kind of want to watch play out because the parents won't go at each other? Because if they still live there, their daughter's dead now. I would move because I don't want anything to happen now because they're not going to take it out on the cop. They're going to take it out on me and my family of my daughter that almost got killed. I wouldn't get out of there.
I just didn't understand it because when he walked up, everyone was just standing, like just literally watching it like take place. Like, I don't know. You saw it too. Like, that's what it seemed like to me. They were
that's what I'm saying.
There was no rush to anyone.
In a lot of states,
and that's what I'm saying. Where they were just like
It could have been. That'd be really, really deep and darkly rooted. But I mean, I don't know.
So there's.
I would say it's more of a like stupid teenager dispute, and the parents just got emotionally backed in it, like they do in T-ball and like stupid stuff like that. Like my kid's gonna take your kid. Like I don't know.
But I mean, but again, if anyone's kid's pulling out a knife, it's off.
Yeah, it should be stopped.
Well, so that's where a lot of states
stopped before that. But
so like, there's a lot of states that will charge parents and stuff like that for being complicit.
Just standing and watching it happen.
I forget. Like, I'd have to think more about like the case laws, but I know there are some states where like if parent like, I think I might be conflating it from I know there's states where like if your kid does something, the parents are legally obligated to pay because technically they're guardians. I would assume it probably works the same way in charges of like, hey, we can't charge you for this and this, but here's all the other petty things we can charge you with. Like same thing with like cops on a traffic stop. Like if you're going to be rude, guess what? They can find 30 things to cite you for. And now that you're being rude, you're getting cited for it. It was originally just going to be a speeding ticket, but now you're escalating. So now I'm going to show you why you don't do that, and you're going to understand why I was being a nice guy.
Dude, speaking of parents being held accountable, even though sometimes it might be out of their control, dude, if teenagers are sexting back and forth, they start sending nudes, and that gets caught, they can take that against the parent because the cell phone's in their name, and now you have child porn on your record and you might go to jail, and that's not going to be fun because everybody in jail is going to know you had the guy with child porn. That's not going to be fun.
Even though, dude, that you basically screw your whole parents over, dude. You screw their whole life up. So I've always wondered, because I guess we're this like the second generation, but like the generations that come up with like sexting and all that, what happens like when those kids turn 18? Like they're still in high school and like, oh, I just turned 18, you know, it's my senior year. Like they
So
have a bunch of illegal content on their phone now.
So the
Like,
way that it
how does that work?
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
So it does not matter the age; it is child porn. So even in the states,
So even if you're like 14 and 14, you're still getting
yes, it's
charged.
child porn. Yes, you can.
But it goes to your parents.
You can. So even then, no, you can be charged for it as well.
Well, if you're 18 now, if you're 18 and you have your girl who y'all were 16 and you have her nudes since y'all been 16 and now you're 18, it can
my
go
thing
to
is nothing changes except for how hard you can get hit with the crime. So I feel like when you're younger, there's more leniency to it. Like they're still going to hit you on it, but the judge obviously isn't going to go max sentence on you if it's 16 and 16. If it's 16 and 18, yes, then he's going to throw more of the book at you. But the charge is still the same. It doesn't change whether it's wrong or not. So it's the same thing. Like I think in Texas, our age of consent is like 17, and they can have sex with older people. They can have sex with older people, but even though they're still 17, they cannot send pictures. They cannot film it or anything like that. So like even in states where the legal age of consent is 16, same thing. Like you can have sex, you cannot film it, you cannot do anything else. Like you cannot distribute it.
But I think what you brought up, Sean, was an interesting conundrum. If we've been dating through high school, and then now it's what kids do. Like, let's just be real. And then they still have those photos from a year ago. That is a weird conundrum to be in.
That's y'all are perceiving. It's not just a switch flips. It's still a crime, even if you're 16.
No. I'm not saying it's not a crime. What I'm saying is that is a weird thing to think about. That okay, we're both 17. Me and this girl in high school. We're trading nudes.
Illegal.
Yes, I get. It's still a crime.
Yes.
Okay, but I'm saying that's just weird. When you turn 18. You are now in possession of child porn, even though it was all consensual between those two 17-year-olds. And instead of your parents now, yes, it's like you're saying, you get hit with the book. I think the conundrum's weird that you're now that's weird.
So I think you're misperceiving that they immediately go after the parents. They don't. It's very, very select that happens.
No, he was just saying like he agrees with you, like it's the same, like both ways, but it's just weird that like you could be literally sitting in your room doing that. Like say two partners are doing that at 17 and like, oh, it's my birthday in 10 minutes. And then as soon as you turn 18, you're now a legal adult in possession of that. Like
that's what I'm saying.
It's weird. It is weird that like just thinking about it, not like
I get that, but my thing is like, I feel like y'all are putting way too much emphasis on the fact that it's like they're still charging you with the same crime. Your sentence might be different a little bit. Everything else is the same.
No, I get that.
No, we get that. I'm just saying that it feels like a mind bender because it's like it goes from not feeling like a crime to immediately feeling like a crime, even though it's all the same.
I guess that's where we disagree and misperceive it. To me, I still register like that is a crime. It is just something we accept that happens. Same thing with 17, 18. Like, I understand it's a crime. Same thing that happens. Like, to me...
So maybe we shouldn't say a crime. We should say socially acceptable. Even it's socially acceptable. Like, well, not really, but, between... I don't know.
Even to me, socially acceptable, a 17 and 18, most people aren't going to take conflict with it. So, like, even when it comes to, like, prison and stuff like that, there's still leniency in prison. Like... If they're like, when they find out that's what happened, they're going to ask you stuff. They're going to be probing for stuff like that. And in most scenarios, when it's like, because this is just offhand experience from people who have told stories about prison and have explained this, they're like, when it comes to like, she was 17, you were 19. There's the leniency. Like in jail, they're like, that fucking sucks. Doesn't matter. It's not what everyone thought it was. They're not going to be hard on you. It's a different thing. Like, it's not like prisoners are just like, this is the hard-lettered law. This is how we go about it. They're prisoners. There's still leniency and social acceptance.
I mean, to a degree, because like I've watched some of those locked up shows where they get inside there and like one guy was like basically backed in a corner and was like pleading and was like, "It's not what you think. It's not what you think. Like I'm not a POS, man. Like I promise you, it's not what you think." It was kind of like that. It was like barely a year difference. It was not with kids, man. I'm not like that because there was a gang in that prison, and I think they're probably everywhere. There's a gang in that prison specifically designated to beating them up, if not killing them, for being in there for child crimes.
Well, see,
but he was like backed into a corner, like it's not like that. But again, you're only taking their word for it.
Well, no, in most scenarios, prisoners
now all of a sudden
get
everybody
pull papers. So like
the prisoners aren't.
There are prisoners who will have their lawyers pull papers and pull sheets on other people. Like if they're interested enough to know what crime you committed, they're gonna have people pull the papers and figure out what the crime was. Like it's not like they just like, oh, this is what this guy is. Like no, there's a conversation to be had about it, or someone's doing some digging. Like I forget what channel it was that I can't remember. He like used to be a jewel thief, like super famous jewel thief. Does YouTube videos now. He's done stories where he talks about him being locked up, and he talks about situations like that. He's like, yeah, most of the time, if my group wanted to know something, or we just met, or we have a new cellie, he's like, well, sometimes we'd ask them if we believed them, we left it there. If we didn't, I'd contact my lawyer and have him pull the papers and figure out what's going on there. He's like, there's subtle things you can do. Yeah, it's like, I mean, I don't disagree with Devin that like that can be the scenario, but most of the time, like, it depends on how the person comes off. If they like, there is a difference between like someone you can trust and someone you can't trust, and you can feel that. Like if the dude seems sketchy, there's a reason why they don't believe him, because he seems so sketchy and off. So there can be other social cues that make them not believe him. I don't dispute that, but in most scenarios, like if you're a pretty normal person and you're kind of nervous, they're going to read that you're nervous. Like they're not going to read like, oh, this guy's hiding stuff, he's lying. There can be misperceptions, but like not everyone in there is just an idiot.
Right.
Everyone's just dumb.
I just can't buy that everyone's just dumb. But at least from most of the like experiences and stories I've read, most of the time they're like, nah, we'd just pull the sheet. We'd figure out what they're in. Or it would be like, I'm going to, go hit up the guard, figure out what's going on. And then like, dude, prison terms are still blow my mind today. Like, do either of y'all know what dry snitching is?
Never been in prison.
Yeah, I mean,
Dry snitching would be like, let's say like me and like, even if it's like, if we want to take it to like a work scenario, let's say Devin's our boss, Quentin, and we're having a conversation. I'm not directly telling Devin the things you do wrong, but I bring it up offhandedly enough to I know where Devin will cue in on it without me directly saying
it. It's also unprovoked. There was no situation that caused you that you were like, if I snitch on this, I'm going to gain the upper hand, or I'm back in the corner, I need to snitch to get this off me. You were just like throwing people under the bus too. It's dry.
Okay.
It's like unprovoked. It's like, what is this? Why are we doing this right now?
Yeah, dude.
And then you're like, what did I do to you to provoke this?
Mm-hmm. Like, there's a lot of stuff. Like, dude, if like you look into
and then
prison,
you have to stab Clayton.
Yeah, the hierarchy is saying, dude, like for a while there, my favorite show to watch was 60 Days In, bro. That show gets lit. Like,
reality TV.
Dude, like, no, straight up, like...
It's like Big Brother, but it's prison.
They film. So what they do is they take I don't know if y'all have watched it or understand the concept, but what they do is they have a group of contestants all line up. Their job is like, hey, you're getting paid. They won't, like, on the outside, we have no idea what they're getting paid, but most of the people who have been on the show are like, yeah, it pays good. They're like, it does not pay bad. You get paid per day that you're in there. You get paid pretty decently. It's worth it. Like most of the time, like, dude, watching the male side versus the female side is so crazy, because like the male side, you'll see some of the males step up and you'll see some of them won't, but like for most people that go in there, you see it just becomes a mission of survive, because like most of the time it's like, hey, we're sending you in, we've got reports of this and this in our prison, we've done all this, we're still not sure. So it's like, hey, we want you to go in, figure out what they're doing. Like, oh, hey, they're somehow still getting drugs in. We need you to kind of get an idea of how that's happening. Like, we're doing this, and this. What's happening?
Okay, so as soon as they find out, I imagine they're getting transferred out before they're killed.
So that's the thing. Depending on how good you are, because the thing is, they don't act on the information immediately. They wait. So, like, it's one of those things. Like, yes, there have been people who've gotten figured out or can't handle being in prison. They have little things. Like, one was like, just put your arm over your heart. Like, just put your arm over your heart, or complain about your shoulder hurting or something, and we'll pull you for medical, and you'll be out, and we'll pull you out at that moment. Like, dude, it's crazy, bro. There's some good seasons where some people step up and they actually find a bunch of stuff out.
So these are prisoners participating in the game show?
Nope. These are regular people who are given a fake story and coached and like, I'm telling you, dude.
Got you.
If you want to watch it, the best season to watch is there's this dude named Tony on it. And he ends up becoming kind of the pod boss to a degree. Like, he's buying everything. A lot of people are running stuff through him. Like, he straight up steals another prisoner's clothing for not paying him on time. Like, he straight up steals shirt, shoes, like, I want your pants too. You're giving it all to me, to the point that cellmate, like, that guy got pulled out of the pod. Like, that prisoner got moved because the prison saw what was happening.
Okay, because I misinterpreted at the beginning. I thought this was prisoners participating, and I'm like, okay, we're not that far off from gladiators then.
No,
we will soon be there if we're making them dance.
It is sending people from the outside in.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, too, like, you also get to learn how smart the prisoners are about the prison system. Of, like, there will be someone who's like, where did you get arrested? Oh, I got arrested here. And they know the system so well, they're like, you wouldn't be here then. You'd be at this location. That makes no sense why you're here. What did you say you were arrested for? And they will interrogate them on their story, and they'll start picking it apart piece by piece and be like, yep, they wouldn't have sent you to jail for that. And they're like, that would have been a ticket. So why did you get sent to jail? And they'll say this. And they're like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. First time offender, right? Yeah, that doesn't make sense. You wouldn't be here. Like, you'd be in county.
I would start getting really, really, really nervous as that started to unfold. I'd be like, okay, I'm calm.
Dude, I'm telling you, that's why it's fun to watch. Like, there are some seasons where, like, people are dropping out. There's some seasons where, like, they have contestant jumping another person, like, with the group and fighting it out. Bro, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, dude,
allowed.
Watch it. I'm telling you, if you have the ability to watch it, watch it. It is so good, dude. I love 60 Days In.
Have they ever had, like, a contestant, like, turn on them? Like, oh, we're actually going to have to leave this guy in jail. He committed some crimes while he was on the show.
No, so that's the thing. Like,
here.
No, they will. So, like, there's a level of, like, exemption. Like, the dude who jumped the other prisoner didn't get in trouble. Now, if the guards see it, because the guards don't know, the only people that know are the higher-ups of the prison. Other than that, guards aren't told anything. They treat, like, guards only know it as, like, this is a prisoner. We don't know his story. We were just told to put him here, so we put him here. So there's a level of, like, cover. So, like I was saying, there was one dude who jumped another dude. They're doing K2 with the prisoners. They're doing coke with the prisoners. Like, they're finding all that stuff out, dude. It is great.
Going there as the worst contestant, like the worst undercover boss. You know what I mean? Like, man, you get tired doing bad guy stuff all day. Am I right? Am I right?
Bro. So no, like, it's crazy how, like, my thing is the male side is always better because the female side, dude. It is literally like high school for the female side. Like,
I was about to say,
they
you've seen it.
They get bullied out. They can't handle the pressure. Or I felt like I did a lot, and it's like, you have a complete misperception. Like, you were completely there. Like, you were just on a completely other side. Like, there was
you made friends with everyone and started doing their makeup.
So one season, one of the contestants
I did a lot.
Gets bullied into taking a piss test for another criminal, and that criminal passes the piss test because of that and gets released.
Dang.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, great. He's free to roam.
Dude, so it's insane. Like, dude, I'm telling you, like, you want to learn prison antics and stuff like that and kind of understand how prisoners are actually really smart. They just make dumb decisions outside of prison.
So, like, when they told the warden, like, hey, sorry that our contestant peed for your other guy and let him go free.
So
but,
I don't,
it's part of the gig.
I'm sure if you go through that, I'm sure at some point,
it's a prank.
Because I'm sure once they pull all the contestants out, because the thing is, they obviously can't immediately say, like, we know that she took the piss test for you. Because then it's like, why are you looking so heavily into that? Y'all don't normally do that. So the gig's up at that point, they blow the cover.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it was something along the lines of, like, it happened after the 60 days, we're going back and getting that person.
That makes sense.
I don't know, man. That is a weird one. Like, how'd that happen? But also, like, you're gonna get smart about this. Like, dude, I mean, imagine if you got told tomorrow you're gonna be in there for 30 years. It's like, okay, you kind of just accept defeat, and you're like, well, I'm gonna learn this system and try to fit in here because, again, now you're in that hierarchy. You got to make sure you're not the bottom of the totem pole. So you're gonna start figuring stuff out, talking to who's who.
Dude,
the movers and shakers, the shankers and stabbers of the world.
Dude, I'm telling you,
crazy.
Like, it gets pretty crazy, bro. Like, one dude, it was a white dude in a like a black prominent prison, and dude, another sketchy black cellmate broke the dude's tablet and was lying about it, and like they all get put in lockdown, and the other prisoners are yelling to the vent like, "Hey, bro. You hit him, bro. We got you. We're jumping in. We're jumping this dude. Like, we're getting him. We're getting him." It gets so heated. And like, in this, like, they do the interview with him afterwards, and he's like, "Dude, I didn't want to do it, bro. Like, I really didn't want to do that. Like, that morally, like, conflicted with me." Well, he got lucky, and that prisoner felt scared for his life to the point that he called medical to have medical pull him to a different pod so he could explain the situation and get pulled from that pod and get moved to a different one. I'm telling you.
Wait,
bro,
so and
you
my
have
only question
got
is
to
they
watch
get
it.
tablets?
So in certain jails, so it depends on the level of prison and jail and stuff like that, but you have commodities you can buy. So like there's one where like if you have the money in your deal, you can buy a radio. Now that radio tunes into the TVs so that you can tune into the TV and listen to the TV, and you can change between like the actual different TVs. Like there's also like this one stays on ESPN, this one is news in the morning, this is this show and stuff like that, and they all you can tune in and listen to it and watch it from your bunk and stuff like that. It's crazy. That's
interesting,
dude. I'm telling you gotta watch it. You gotta watch it. Like, I need you to get at least one season. Like, even if you have to, just look up like what is the best season and watch it, because there are like a couple good ones and there's a couple dull ones, but there's some good ones.
That's on Netflix, right? I'd probably watch that.
I don't know if it's on Netflix. Oh wait, I think it is. I think it did get recently put on Netflix, dude. It's worth it.
Yeah, because I think I've seen it or seen the title. Like, but so you're gonna be mad because Black Hawk Down came on cable, and I was like, you know what? I'll turn this on, and I had it playing, and I couldn't get into it, bro. Like, I had it playing in the background, and like I was watching it, and I don't know.
Waiting to say that since the list. Damn,
dude, I was just like,
all right. So hold on.
Like, Clayton's gonna be disappointed in me, but I didn't get to attach to the characters. I was like, this feels like a like general 2000s army soldier movie. So like it looks like it was directed by Linkin Park.
Here's the thing: it is based on a true story. Like, that is what gets me. That's where my investment comes in. Is like knowing that these people went through this. So like, how far did you actually go? Did you watch the whole thing?
No, I didn't. I didn't finish it. That's the thing.
How far did you make it in?
I got to where they were like pinned down and some, because I was like off and on from my phone. So like, I got like in the beginning
Here's my thing. When it comes to the beginning is rough. Like, because it's set up for the political landscape that's out there and kind of understanding that to a degree. And if you don't know the story, you don't understand why it was such a big deal. But then once you get to the action parts and you start understanding what's going on, you start to see that spiral of how things just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse.
I did notice that from the beginning because they had that guy who was like their insider with the black cross, and they were like, he's at the building, and then he's like, no, now he's saying it's the wrong building, and everyone started flipping out in command. They're like, what do you mean it's the wrong one? And then it just from there progressively got worse, and like, but I stopped watching it when the squad was like pinned down in that little. There was like a broken down piece of brick or something, and there was two guys that were like pinned down.
So did you get past the part where the guy jumps out of the off the ropes and falls and is immediately wounded, and then they get separated and stuff like that?
I don't remember that part.
Bro,
isn't this like
I didn't get that
too?
No, it is not a stat
I don't
cast
know
at
anyone.
all. No, this is like
anyone.
This is, I think there's maybe like one or two actors that were big at the time but weren't huge. But other than that, it is probably like people you've never heard of.
See, because I asked the guy at work about that today, because I told him, I was like, yeah, man, we talked about the IMDb 250, and I was like, yeah, there's this running joke about my buddy who loves Black Hawk Down, and he's like, dude, I've watched that movie so many times. It's like a superstar cast. I'm like, it is? He's like, yeah, dude, it's like bunch of good actors in it. I was like, huh.
To me, like, they're good, like, they're good actors, he's one of those people stacked.
Yeah, I didn't recognize any of the actors.
Yeah, they're good. Like, it's good. Like, their acting was very good for what it was, but it wasn't asking for them to play overly dimensional characters. But I'm telling you, bro.
Okay, Schwinn, no one that Quentin Tarantino puts in all of his movies is in there, so you were like lost. You're like, I don't know who this is.
Oh, well. Who is this?
But dude, to me, like, I can understand the movie's not for everyone. I just need you to watch it and understand why it's my favorite movie. Like, I'm sure by watching it, you can kind of understand. But like you said, your attention wasn't fully on it. Because, like, that's one of those movies, like, if you're not paying attention, you're not getting the full thing. Like, you have to kind of lock in and watch it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't, so...
Because, like, that's the thing with, like, an action movie like that. If you're just glancing up, you're not getting the story.
Well, also, you also have all these other outside factors contributing to it. Like, the first, like, you know what I mean? You're like, Clayton wants me to watch this. It's also funny because I haven't. It's also funny because I'm going to bring up, there's all this other outside stuff that's affecting the experience. Mm-hmm. If the movie was just on and you just came across
watched it. Because,
dude, that was Fight Club for me, because I'd heard about it, because everyone knows the first rule, you don't talk about it. I was like, let me see what this is about, and it just sucked me in and was like, there was no 20 people telling me to see it.
Maybe that's why I didn't enjoy. I liked Fight Club, but my brother hyped it up so much, and then I watched it. And
you ruined it.
Well, see,
I was like, that's all right.
That's the same thing with me with Pulp Fiction. Like, I'm sure you love Pulp Fiction. I'm sure Devin. Have you seen Pulp Fiction, Devin? I think you.
First time I watched it was with Devin, actually.
I'm assuming you loved it,
dude.
I liked it.
Was that both our first time seeing it?
That was the first time I saw it.
Y'all probably watched it in college, didn't you?
Dude, it was amazing. I walked away from that and I was like, "That's what." That's
pretty cool.
Is. I was like, "That was an artistic expression. That was the artistic expression." I'm like, I feel like I just got flexed on. I was like, "Whoa."
My thing was, I felt it was a good movie, but dude, the amount of hype people put into it is what ruins it.
Right.
Yeah.
That was my problem with it. It was a good movie, but people make it seem like it is the greatest thing to ever grace this earth, and I'm like,
No. His movies are very much, like Devin said, they're an experience, like an artist. Because at first, when I watched it, I tried to figure out, like, what's the plot? Like, I don't really know what the plot is. Each scene is its own little thing that you just take for what it is and enjoy. The same thing with, like, Reservoir Dogs. Like,
dude,
you just enjoy. I love Reservoir Dogs. I know it's a weird one, but I love it, dude. I love him breaking apart each character's, like, their perspective. And I think that's so cool.
See, for me, like, when it comes through on, like, Reservoir Dogs, I think my problem is I missed it. I felt like it was over my head. So, like, I'm sure if I watched, like, a breakdown on why the movie's really good, I'm sure I would respect it more. But I feel like it just, like, it went over my head. Like, I know there's more to it than what I'm seeing, and I'm just not registering it.
Oh, dude, it's all connected. That's how you figure. After you see, like, each piece is like a puzzle. Like each time you see each person's perspective, like this is why that's happening, or this is why, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I don't disagree. Like, it wasn't a horrible movie. Like, it was all right. But there was also that part of me that's like, man, every character is dead. There was, like, I didn't want the cops to win in that scenario, and they did, and I was upset by it.
Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a good thing of, like, it doesn't end the way you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, like, for me, it's like I couldn't predict
just...
the ending. Like, I'll give him that. That was enjoyable that I couldn't. It's just like, man, I know that it was right ending, but I just didn't like it.
Yeah. That's what's so good, dude, like, is you don't know what you're gonna experience.
Because like what was?
Well, I mean, to me, that's like the end of
that we watched. Oh, keep going. Give me a second. I'm trying to think about it.
Oh, well, I was thinking, like, to me, is like maybe it doesn't end like you expect it, because I don't know. Because like the end of Kill Bill, he could have just never walked again and stayed alive, but he took his 5 steps and died. But then also it's like, maybe that's how it's supposed to end. It is just a movie at the end of the day, but it's also like, was that just an honorable death because he'd been got?
Could have been.
Trying to think.
You know what I mean? He's like, right. But same thing with the hype. I've never seen an episode of Game of Thrones ever.
It's not that good.
It's
not that good.
I watched.
I tried.
I watched it a little bit during the hype. I watched like the first 3 seasons. I was interested because everyone was saying it was so good. Dude, it just moved way too slow for the story development for me. Like,
way too slow.
And that was everyone's complaint on the show is like, dude, there's 7, like, people were rooting for characters to die just so other characters could have more screen time to tell more of their story. Like,
I just remember how much of a cultural phenomenon it was. Like, dude, like, I had family members obsessed with it. I had friends obsessed with it, and they're like, it's on today, leave me alone, like, and they'd talk about all week, and I'm like, still not watching it. Well, dude, y'all are so excited about this, I don't want to see it.
So here's the best part. No one will ever go back and rewatch it because of how bad the ending was. Like,
I heard that there's a petition to do that, to rechange that.
That killed me so much because I was like, once it fully comes out, I'll watch it. And then everyone was like, the ending was horrible. It made absolutely no sense. And then, like, once I heard what the ending was, I was like, that doesn't make sense. I'm good. I don't need to see it. I'm good. I'm glad.
I'm good.
It's just one of those. It's just one of those, like, unfortunate. They didn't know how to end it. You know what I mean? They just didn't know how.
Well,
so they just picked what they picked was not what should have been done.
So, like, here's my argument as to why it would probably be so bad is, like, in the beginning, they had kind of this guidelines of, like, this is the story. It is written in stone. This is what it is. This is just us acting out that story and putting people in the right place. Well, once you get to the end, George R.R. Martin is never finishing the series. Obviously, he's never going to. And he, like, at this point, everyone's like, I don't know how he's going to end it. Because he had a say in how the TV show ended. And they're like, if this is how he chooses to end it in the books, it makes no sense. So they're like, well, he's written himself into a corner because that's how he said it was supposed to end. So now he's given himself this constraint of like, okay, I've got to finish it in 3 books. I've got to make all this ending make sense. So I don't think he can. And I don't think he'll ever finish the books because of that.
Oh, and he's also notoriously a slow writer. He's asked Stephen King before. He's like, yeah, but he's slow at it. He's asked Stephen King before. He's like, I've always wanted to ask you this. How the hell do you write so much? Because the joke is that George R.R. is insanely slow. And Stephen King, dude, I don't even know how many books the guy has.
Here's my thing. He's slow, but I'm pretty sure if you look at the book releases, they're still within reason. It is now with this next book in the series that everyone's been dying for, that it's been like 10 years, and everyone's like, okay, now the joke is that you're slow. It's not even within reason. And I think it's because he set that hard cap on himself on how he wanted the story to end without being able to tell as to why it should end that way.
Or maybe even it's just like, why should I if this is already tainted? You know, it's like, do I put the time in if it's going to take him forever? Because, like, dude, it's funny we talk about movies so much this one. How many books are based off Stephen King? How many movies are based off Stephen King books? Shawshank Redemption.
what I'm saying is like there are a lot of like there's a lot of movies based on books, but those books have their concrete ending that has already been written out, and he has written the story to that end. It's a lot harder to take a story from like the middle of it and then be like, this is how I want it to end. Like now you've built yourself into this wall of like, how do I get there and how do I make that make sense? Where he already struggled when he didn't have that pathway. So I feel like he's set himself in this constraint and he has no idea what to do with it to make it make sense.
And it is funny, like how much TV shows and movies struggle if they don't have that final piece, because it doesn't feel like the right way to take it. Because like that's why Dragon Ball had so much filler, and a lot of animes have filler because they're waiting for the manga to catch up because they're like, we don't know what to do. Let's just make 5 filler episodes. You know what I mean? And it's like, it is so crazy. They don't know where to take it, because honestly, if they take it the wrong way and then they have to backtrack, that's a bigger problem. But it's just, it's like they can't, it is weird to see that. They're like, every way is the wrong way.
The other thing I think is they just don't end the series in time. Like Dragon Ball, dude, it went too long. That's why there was too much filler. Like to me, like there's a lot of filler, but at the end of the day, it's like, we've got this series, we got this series, we got this series. And it's like, okay, dude, like, where do we end it? Like, same thing with, like, if you go through Bleach, like, what is it, like 400 episodes or something like that? And it's like, dude,
I think more than that.
You should have ended this a long time ago. And, like, in a lot of, like, dude, like, same thing with Naruto. Like, if there needs to be a guide on how to watch this the proper way to still never get the ending, why am I doing this? Like, why I should not need a guide of episodes to skip.
See, I feel like Super was a good length because they had filler, but it also it left me wanting more. You know, like after each arc that would slowly release on Hulu in English, like I was like, I can't wait for the next one. And then when I finally had it all, finished it, and I was like, that's it. But it had very small filler, but it also got to the next thing pretty like at a good pace, much better pace than past Z, GT, Ball, and all that.
Well, that's just it. They finally had an ending.
Well, Super had the advantage of they had 2 movies to buy time with, because the first of Super is just redoing the movies, and I skipped those. I'm like, I've seen the movies. I skipped all of that, but it was more concise because it's also like 15, 20 years after Z. It's like they kind of have an idea of what the fans want, and it's not Goku meeting Indians. It's like, okay, let's make this kind of let's like kind of trim the fat off this thing. The other thing is that the manga's still going, but like it's like when do you call it? When is the power creep too much? Because at the end of Super, they are, Ultra Instinct is like blows the minds of like the gods. Like, whoa. In the manga, who they're fighting right now is basically the equivalent of like Galactus. The enemy is so beyond another realm that he eats planets for energy. That is his food. It's like, okay, the power creep. What more can we do? Because you got to imagine they can't just dust that guy because it's not interesting. It's like they're godly, but it's not enough because this guy just consumes planets to stay alive. So they are fighting on a galactic level now.
Well, they're already fighting on a galactic, dimensional, universal, multiverse level. Because when they're the god of the universe, Zeno was going to destroy your universe if you lost the tournament of power or whatever.
They're fighting with the realms at stake. They are like realmly, otherworldly power, though, now, or have to be that. And then the moral dilemma in the thing is that, is he doing evil because he's just doing that to stay alive? It's the same as us eating fish or chicken. He's eating a planet just to stay alive. Is that evil? Well, it kills all the people, but he's just trying to be a living creature. So there's like a little, there's a question amongst it.
Is he above Whis, like above angels and destroyer gods? Sorry,
I don't know his hierarchy. No, I don't know. I don't know if he's a hierarchy. But
so, like, side note for me, did they ever fix Gohan, or are we just forever Gohan is trash?
They tried to, and it didn't really work. They tried to bring him back in Tournament of Power, like, you're gonna be powerful again, because you're gonna lead the team, son. Really, Goku, like, you're going to make sure all our friends don't die while I go do the real stuff. Like it was all right. Really, honestly, I got more pumped when Master Roshi fought than Gohan in the last. Like they brought him back really coolly, like in a cool way. I thought that was cool, but Gohan was boring to me. It was just like Goku, Vegeta were interesting. The Saiyans from the other universe were interesting to me. I thought that was cool, and I liked Hit. But Gohan was not. No.
Mm-hmm. All right, boys. Well, do y'all have any other subjects you want to roll into?
I don't have any more. That was my list.
Okay. What about you, Devin?
I think I think the Ben Askren and then Jake Paul thing is kind of ridiculous.
Oh God.
Oh.
Here's the thing. Here's my perspective on it. So, okay, first round knockout. Okay. Here's my perspective on it. Well, actually, I have two, but my other thing is that, like, I feel like boxing was already on the decline as MMA was on the rise. Boxing started looking, it was losing momentum, losing popularity. At this point, when it's influencers now is like the thing to do. I'm like, boxing is just almost looks stupid now because of this. It's just already we're dancing on the
box. Is that what it was? It wasn't an MMA fight. They just boxed.
It's always boxing, bro. They never do MMA. It's one of those things. There's a reason why boxing died. The judging's inconsistent. If you were to ask me who the heavyweight is, I don't know. There's like 30 different million leagues where everyone's a heavyweight. Mm-hmm. Which one actually matters? Like MMA, you have like a clear hierarchy. You have maybe 1 to 2 competitors for each one. It's not 30 million. The judging seems to be typically pretty consistent. And not to mention, like, when it comes to, like, boxing versus MMA, like, boxing, you have a very select skill versus, like, this is fighting. This is more relatable to people because it is encompassing what you might run into. And then on top of that, like, dude, first round knockout, like, dude, whatever. I'm 90% sure it was probably a dive. Like, I don't care. My thing is, like, everyone was so hyped about Ben Askren because of Joe Rogan about the MMA thing. Goes in there, gets demolished there. Career is over. Goes into that. Pretty sure it was a dive so that he could get a payday and he could retire because his career was over at that point.
And that's what, like some of the MMA fans I've talked to were like, well, they picked, like, the worst one. They picked one of the worst in the league. I'm like, regardless, though, he's fighting a YouTuber. Regardless, he's fighting a YouTuber. The worst MMA fighter could dust most anybody on the street. So that's why I was like, it's like with you, it's probably
the worst of the best.
He probably took a fall, but on top of that, too, like, not to take away anything from, like, Jake Paul or anything, but the kid is actually extremely good at boxing. Like, even his fundamentals and stuff like that. Like, if he went into boxing and had trained for it super hardcore like he is now, he actually could be a decent level boxer. I don't think he'd be the best of the best, but he would be a decent level one.
Like, I heard who's the one that's fighting Mayweather? Who's fighting Mayweather?
Logan.
His brother.
Logan.
Yeah, that's going to be demolished, dude.
Dude, that's how we know.
But here's the thing, though.
That's the weird thing because
Mayweather has enough money that he has no incentive to take a dive, whereas Ben Askren, to me,
Mayweather cares more about his status.
He's undefeated.
Like,
he's undefeated,
dude. Yeah, if someone was like, hey, we'll give you $1 billion to dive to this YouTuber, or you can keep that undefeated, he's just gonna spit in their face and probably burn his bag of money and walk away. Like, he doesn't care, bro.
Well, that's,
$1 billion's a lot.
The other thing is too,
but he's undefeated. He, like, in the sport and the history of boxing, like, he's in the Hall of Fame, bro. He's a select few.
My same argument is, like, I'm very impressed at how good he is at boxing, but there's the same reason why we don't see him in MMA. Like, you know what I mean? The man is really good at what he does.
It's a sport, though. You're competing in a specific, just like you said, it's a specific thing. But Mayweather's not out there calling out MMA fighters. I'm sure he respects it for what it is.
Well, I don't disagree, but like, it's like, even then, like, my thing is, it's like, dude, why are we doing boxing why can you not people be doing MMA? Like, why are you going to boxing? Like, why can't it be an MMA
it's
event?
safer for the person that doesn't know. Because like you said, it's more specific. You just have to swing your arms. Like, I mean, I'm not saying it's that simple, but if you're just a random person off the street,
well, that's just
but someone takes you to the ground, you're like, whoa.
Well, that's just it. Jake Paul and them didn't really know all that much about boxing. It was literally they hired trainers to do it. You can hire trainers to teach you MMA. My thing is it has to be a marketing
savage of a sport, dude.
It has to be a marketing perspective. Like it literally has to be that there's just more money for them to be made in boxing because MMA, like nobody wants to watch people who suck at MMA do MMA.
There you go. Okay, there you go. Yeah. I was like, it's easier to fake a boxing match because, like Clint's saying, anybody can throw punches. If you get a trainer, you can pretty much know how to throw a right punch within like a few days. Training somebody on jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai and striking and it's hard to fake that.
Whatever, all their stuff.
Watching people, if you watch two people fake jiu-jitsu on the ground, it's gonna make everyone uncomfortable.
Well, see, that's
very uncomfortable because it looks wrong.
That's my thing, though. It's like it originally started because these people had beef with each other on the internet. That's what it originally started at, and it's like, oh, we went to boxing. Why? Like, I want to see a street fight. If you're gonna do it, let's do MMA. Like, I want to see a street fight.
I mean, I don't know, man. It just appeals to the masses, I guess. I don't know.
Well, and here's the other thing. Who would approve it? Would Dana White allow that in the sport?
No.
Would he allow influence? So there you go. That's another thing.
He has literally said no, but even then, like, bro, all they need is a facility. Like, half these people aren't going in person to watch. Like, yes, the boxing matches in person, some people are going to that, but the majority of what they're making money off of is the pay-per-views. So, like, I don't know. I feel like it's just an understanding that they'll never make it in that sphere.
That's an untapped market for Mr. Beast right there. Influencer MMA matches. He buys a big warehouse, buys a bunch of cages, and starts airing pay-per-views. And then, like, half the proceedings go to charity. Other half goes to subscribers, like stupid stuff like that.
No, dude, that's the thing though. His whole thing is like giving us stuff away, so there would be no pay-per-view. It'd all be free live stream.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like it would go completely away from his mold. That is not something I could ever see him doing.
That's true.
Like, that would also be weird.
His thing is also, what would people's reaction be if I did this crazy thing that's super charitable for those people? Like,
that's
the
true.
Dude, like I actually got
the free burgers.
I got a weird Mr. Beast kick today of like watching him do the like where he's just like, would you sit in this pile of snakes? You know, we'll give 10 grand here, 10 grand there.
I saw that one, dude.
Like my favorite one was the dude sitting there curling the 1 pound dumbbell and being like, I completely underestimated how bad this would be.
Yes. That was pretty cool. Yeah, dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, his free burger restaurant, you know what I mean? It's like you just eat for free, and then he drops stacks of money in it too. So yeah, and he doesn't seem like a person who's into fighting. Really? Yeah, I mean,
he's very a giving charitable man. Yeah.
Well, I think it's also. I feel like he's also appealing more to kids with his videos as well. Like, I feel like because of how YouTube is, they would gate the monetization if it was fighting. Like, it's different than him doing, like, whoever wins this game of tag at an abandoned hospital wins $100 grand.
Mm-hmm. That's
true. Yeah. It's just like and then the influencer fighting. Like, it was bad enough when they were doing diss tracks and rap tracks to each other. That was bad enough. That was like, dude, I'm glad we kind of walked away from that.
But people would pay to watch that influencer fight if they already are. Like, dude, if you could watch,
I don't think they will when it comes to MMA, because MMA, it is very easy to recognize when people have no skill at it.
They're not going to have skill. That's the point.
That's just like if we take it to like if we regress on rules and let it go back to like pride fighting days. Yeah. Okay, cool. Like, then I want to see that. But if we go by today's modern MMA standards, no. Like,
it's just like a fight, dude. Like, it's just a bunch of people hyping up their side,
No, I see what Clayton's saying, because like the early days of MMA is when you'd have a 350-pound guy fight somebody my size.
Well, it's not even
just
that.
Because that's all we got. That's all we got to work with.
There would no
My
be
thing
no weight
is,
class.
like, Pride was just it was the closest thing you could get to a street fight without it being a street fight, to the point that like, oh, this guy's on his hands and knees, I'm full on soccer kicking his face. Like, Pride was like brutally close to a street fight with still being in reason. If we go by modern MMA rules, all that's been cleaned up to where it's more of like, let's see what your skill is and all these subsects and how they factor in together.
Yeah, there also is, there's more calculation. It's like, this guy's a Muay Thai, like he's proficient in Muay Thai, a little bit of jiu-jitsu. This guy's proficient in wrestling, a little bit, you know what I mean? There's like, you want to see these matchups. These people are just like, what are you going to talk about? Like, this guy is a finance YouTuber and this guy does daily vlogs. It's like, they're just like, what, like, where is this? Where's the nuance? Where's the style clash of like a Muay Thai versus a wrestler, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu versus a striker? Where's the style clash? They're just two regular dudes who got a front. Like, what's entertaining about that? To just see, you know what I mean? It's like, dude, let's just not. They're already dancing on the grave of boxing, and dude, for like, I'm sure for hardcore MMA fans, they probably don't want their community tainted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
No,
like,
MMA
because
fans
that's the thing,
really
dude.
Protective of their community,
dude. Like, battle rap, because I'm super into battle rap. Anytime somebody from the industry comes in, like, they want it, but they want them to get demolished. They want them to get destroyed, because they want to make a point that you cannot just walk in here and do this. They want to make it a point that this is it's like MMA or pride fighting. It is, it's fighting, but it's a subsect that is extremely, like, it's primal, and there's an art to it. Like, you can't just come over here. Yeah. Floyd, you can't just come over to the MMA ring. Not happening. And he won't, because it's a different thing, but it's just not the same. Protective of their community, but no influencer fights. I was done with the rap tracks. I can't believe they're doing boxing. It looks like it's taken off though.
Yeah. All right, boys. Where can you find us, Quentin?
At Nobody Named Kevin Podcast, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter.
All right. Well, this has been Nobody Named Kevin, episode 10. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe.